I trust you're all having a great time. Nothing like getting a bunch of tennis addicts together to play a little tennis. First of all, my name is Mark Tibbs, and I wanted to, first of all, thank Forest City for allowing us this opportunity to get together and do a sport that we love so much. There's a saying that goes, "He who hesitates is lost." And there was a group of us who got together this winter and played at North Olmsted. We just got to talking one day. We thought it would be a good idea to do a tennis party and to just show our appreciation for Mr. Chambers. Well, again, he who hesitates is lost. The first date that Forest City had, we had intended to do that date, but we slipped. And then we thought about doing this date, but they beat us to the punch. So, again, I just want to thank Kevin and Forest City for allowing us the opportunity to just take a moment and show our appreciation for Mr. Eddie Chambers. Give him a round of applause. Before we bring him up and make a brief presentation, I wanted to bring up a few people who wanted to just say a few words. The first one is Greg Perrin. Greg Perrin.
Anyway, for those who don't know, I'm Greg Perrin, and I'm one of the few people that half y'all don't know, but I don't know half y'all. I thought I knew everybody here. I don't know half y'all. I got some folks here from Columbus. Columbus in the house. Motor City in the house. That's what I'm talking about. I wanted to say thank you, Mr. Chambers. A lot of us owe you big time. When I first started playing tennis, you were the first person that actually said, "Boy, give it up." I ain't listen. I'm sorry, I ain't listen. And I kept trying and I kept going. And then he showed me the shot that has made me famous today. The buggy whip. And he'll tell you, I whipped that buggy. No, I cannot do it, but when I do it, Mr. Chambers, I owe it to you. So I want to say thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next person we're going to bring up is Vernita Smith. Vernita, where are you?
Mr. Chambers, I want to thank you. I met you probably about 13, 14 years ago with my children over at the elementary school in Warrensville. And he often talked about me joining Forest City, the tennis club. And I'm thinking, okay, but you got to do this right before we let you in there. You got to, not right, we got to work on you a little bit. I'm like, all right. So it was an honor when I finally was able to go to Forest City and play with you guys. And I have met so many lifelong friends. I've met so many just good people. So I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chambers. You don't know how you've impacted my life, just with the people that I've met. Thanks again, Mr. Chambers.
Got your little speech. It's good.
I was recently asked to say something about Mr. Chambers. I didn't have time to prepare, but I didn't need time to prepare because Mr. Chambers had already scripted the tribute that I was going to write. I met Mr. Chambers, as a lot of the other people did here, at the weekend clinics, and I was blessed to get the invitation to play with him and some other gentlemen on their Thursday morning group. A great group of guys, all retired, all athletic. I thought it was a great opportunity to work on my skills. What I didn't know, the skills of mine that would increase would be patience, respect, Black history, and I grew a lot from that experience. I have to thank Mr. Chambers because he still calls me to play with that same group. By spending that time with him, he became a role model. And I can't tell you how I've grown just from that exposure. Since then, I've been initiated into a rites of passage program with a village in the coastal area of Ghana, where they revere men like Ed, which that's the first time I'm going to call him Ed and the last time I'm going to call him Ed. Mr. Chambers is an elder. I looked up the definition of elder prior to writing this. And it's a leader, one who's known in the community, a ruler, one who's superior. In an age in which they measure men by turning 18 and elder by someone who's older than you, Mr. Chambers embodies the true meaning of elder. And I thank you for everything you've done for me.
Playing in that Thursday morning group a few times, and you don't get a line call with these guys, I'm telling you. Next person we want to bring up is Roz Dillard. Roz? That's right, give her a round of applause.
And playing tennis back in 2000, the year 2000, but they weren't interested in it. So, but Mr. Chambers would come to the recreation department. I worked at the rec, and Mr. Chambers and Mrs. Chambers were both faithfully walkers at the recreation department. And Mr. Chambers was very observant in noticing that the gymnasium wasn't being used when he'd come and walk at least 2-3 times a week. So he approached me one day, and as he would come in to walk, the very first thing he would do was always acknowledge me. Hello, Mrs. Dillard, how are you today? So he'd come in and speak his words of wisdom, as we know Mr. Chambers have many words of wisdom. He'd speak his words of wisdoms and, talk about this, and that, and of course talk about his tennis game. So as he would come in week after week, he kept saying, well, I really need to start working on my serve. I really need to start working on my serve. So he said, well, is anybody using the gym? So I said, no. So one particular day, I was dressed in a suit. I had a skirt and stockings on. And Mr. Chambers came in and he says, well, you know what? I have the net that he used for the youth program. I have the equipment. Can I go in there and set up, my equipment and work on my serves? So I said, well, I don't see a problem with it. Let me, ask my supervisor. So then he said, well, I really need to work on this serve. I wish I had somebody who could return my serve. Now, I had been out of the game for a while. Actually, I didn't play in high school. I didn't play in college. I made an attempt at playing actually after I got out of high school, but really developed a passion for when Mr. Chambers came into the rec in this particular day. I said, he said, I really wish I had somebody to return my serve. So I had been waiting for this opportunity because I wanted to get back out and swing a tennis racket. So I said, well, do you have an extra racket? So he said, yes. So we went into the gymnasium. Mr. Chambers started whipping his serve, and I started getting them back. So I don't think he really remembered me when my girls were trying to play tennis, that I kind of sort of knew a little bit about the game. So from that point on, he'd come in, and on Fridays, we'd set up the net, we'd hit balls, play a few points, set the cones out, try to hit the cones. And we had the net, and we would play so much that we actually ripped up the net. And at that time, she was the mayor of Warrensville. Marcia Fudge and Chief Bova would come and walk the track, and they noticed that we had just ripped up the net that we were using. So we took a sheet and put a sheet over the net to use that to hit our tennis balls. And I say that because it was Mr. Chambers who reintroduced me to the game of tennis, and for that, I want to thank you with all my heart, Mr. Chambers. And I will always cherish the memories that I have of you from those days at the Recreation Department. Thank you very much.
We're going to bring up President of Forest City, Kevin Strick.
Robert had called me a couple of weeks ago, and he had said, hey, we want to do something for Mr. Chambers, and it was really a no-brainer. I said, well, let me just, at our next executive staff meeting, let me just talk to the guys. It was really a no-brainer because Mr. Chambers has been around for years. Mr. Chambers used to call me 3-setter. That was my nickname because he always see me out there, he'd leave, come back, and I'll still be playing. I always, that was my nickname. But I appreciate everything Mr. Chambers has done for Forest City also over the years. And with that being said, I'll hand it over back to you.
Thank you, Kevin. So, Mr. Chambers, we wanted to take this opportunity to tell you how much we appreciate you and what you've meant to the game of tennis in Northeast Ohio. Finally, let me add that in large measure, we all owe you a debt of gratitude. If it weren't for pioneers like you who kept tennis alive in our community, I don't think many of us would be playing in this club tonight. So thank you, Mr. Chambers, and let us say that our debt won't be paid until we learn to come together like we have tonight and eliminate our petty differences and ensure that 25 to 50 years from now, some other black tennis players will be honoring another deserving pioneer so that your legacy continues. So we wanted to commemorate this night by giving you this plaque. It says, Eddie Chambers, an appreciation for your dedicated service to the game of tennis and to all of us in Northeast Ohio. We love you, 2013. Thank you.
Words that my wife said don't say anything. All I can say is no. So much has been said, but I would like to thank Ford City for allowing me to start playing with them back in 1953 at Shiloh Baptist Church when we had a little gym in the basement. Since that time, I have met a lot of good people in this organization, and especially the children that we had a tendency to work with. We have worked with a lot of kids, and we have helped them to get scholarship, full scholarship to college. Some of them has gone on and got master's degrees and so forth. We can mention, I can stand here and we can mention a lot of names, such as Carlos Fleming, that is the manager of the Williams sisters. He came up through his organization. We traveled with him, and he developed and grew with us. So my greatest enjoyment has been working with the young people and seeing them develop. And later on, we developed a program. I was working with the adults at the Racket Club East, and they enjoyed it because there was a lot of adults. Didn't have anything extra to do but to work and take care of the kids. And so we brought them out on a Saturday and taught them how to play tennis. They improved our game also in the process. So the reciprocal thing, by participating with the youth and the adults, we also learn better tennis ourselves. In traveling, we enjoyed this. So again, I would like to thank Ford City for putting up with me, my argument, and my being so loquacious. I know my wife gets tired of me, but if you ask me to speak, you better be careful.